Run, river, run, run through the hills. Run, river, run to the sea. Run, river, run to your place beneath the sun. Run, river, run over me.
Hi, this is Jan Lewis. Welcome to be my guest. Today we have from Manchester, New Hampshire. We have an author who has written a book that many of you are just going to love about, and it's called The White Mountain. Welcome, Dan.
Thank you so much.
Right up there in the White Mountains in New Hampshire. Those of you like myself have gone up there and oh my gosh, camped, everything. How old were you when you first went up there?
Oh, well, I was, this was 18 years ago. So I came up to New Hampshire the first time in 1999, and I climbed Mount Washington in 2000. So, yeah, about 19 years. It's coming up on 20 years now since I climbed the mountain the first time.
What got you interested in writing the book?
Well, I've been interested in writing the book, believe it or not, since I came up. I'm from New Jersey and Philadelphia and Buffalo. That's where my career had been before coming up to New England, and there's not a lot of mountains in those places. So one of the first, I came up as a reporter for the Associated Press. One of the first stories that I did when I moved up to New Hampshire was on a guy by the name of Jim Gagney. And Jim is a mountain climber. He's actually the first native New Hampshireite to summit Mount Everest. And he became something of a mentor to me when it came to hiking and climbing. And one of the first stories I did on Jim, when I was speaking with him, he was training to climb Mount Everest. And I asked him, well, where do you train? And he said, I train on Mount Washington.
Well, yeah.
And I thought, how absurd. Why would you train on a 6,000 foot mountain for a 30,000 foot mountain?
I know, you'll keep going up and down.
Well, and that's how I became interested, because Mount Washington is so extreme. There's a lot of Himalayan climbers that actually do train on Mount Washington because of the extreme weather. So I became interested very early on in my career here in New Hampshire. But it was really only the last few years that I was actually able to find the time and the resources to do what I did for the book, was to spend an entire year studying the mountain.
You climbed the whole thing in how long? The first time you did it, how long did it take you?
Oh my goodness! The first time I did it, I started in the dark and I came down in the dark. That's how long it took me. 'Cause I'm from New Jersey.
One day,
we don't have mountains.
Not
it was in May. I did it in full winter conditions. The first time that I climbed. This was back in 2000, not for the book.
Well, you are also a short story, a poetry, and you're a journalist.
Yes, that's my career has been in journalism.
Where have you been doing your journalism?
I started in Buffalo, New York. I'm from Buffalo, New York originally. That's where I got my career started. I worked for the Buffalo Spree and a couple of other newspapers there. And then I moved down to Philadelphia, the sort of Philadelphia, suburbs of Philadelphia area, and I worked for the Inquirer and some of the weekly newspapers, and I wrote a little history column. I eventually moved to New Jersey, and I worked in Trenton and in Princeton, and that's how I got associated with political writing. That's how I became a political reporter in New Jersey before coming up to New York.
Do you still write now?
Oh, yeah. I still do a lot of freelance work for Appalachia Journal, AMC, Outdoors, Good Men Project, Huffington Post, a whole bunch of
What, are you in the Appalachian Club?
Yes, of course. Yeah, I'm a 4,000 footer and a member of the Appalachian Mountain Club. Yeah.
He took the pictures in this book. If you love it up there, and look at you, you're dressed as Walt Whitman. Tell us about the Walt Whitman thing. Come on.
Well, that's what everyone hones in on that one. That was the most fun. One of the conceit of the book is a year in the life of Mount Washington, and from January 1st to December 31st, 2017, the idea was that I was going to take part in everything that happens on the mountain. So I shoveled coal on the Cog Railway. I ran the foot race on the auto road.
You shoveled the coal?
Yeah, on the Cog Railway, yeah. I lived up at the observatory for a week during winter with the observers, cooking for the meteorologists.
Did you feel kind of shut off from the world?
Oh God, no! It was heavenly. I loved it up there. Yeah, just to be able to every. I'll get back to the Walt Whitman in a second. Every evening at midnight, I got to go outside on the summit of Mount Washington and touch that summit sign at midnight. And you're like the only person in the world up there. You're looking at the stars or the, whatever. It was
fall.
It was, right. Don't slip. No. It was glorious. It was really wonderful. So anyway, the Walt Whitman thing. The Mount Washington Auto Road holds an annual event called Alton Weagle Day. Now, Alton Weagle is someone who's probably one of the most important individuals associated with Mount Washington that you've never heard of, that no one has ever heard of. Alton Weagle.
Was he?
He was a state registered guide, mountain guide, in the 1920s and 1930s. He grew up in Stark, New Hampshire, and he currently holds the most records for climbing on Mount Washington. There's 27 of them, something like that, 28, 27. And they're crazy records. Things like he climbed the mountain backwards. He did it blindfolded.
Yeah.
He did it on his hands and knees. Yeah. So I write a lot about Alton Weagle in the book because he's a fascinating character.
Blindfolded or backwards?
I know. He's an incredible character. He did it. He pushed a wheelbarrow full of sugar
all the way
up the auto road without setting it down. Things like that. He raced the cog railway to the top and he won. Those are the type of records. So anyway, the auto road holds this annual Alton Weagle Day where people from all around the country come and they try to set crazy records.
Yeah.
So I took part in that. And since I'm a poet and Walt Whitman is my favorite poet, and I decided that for my record attempt, I would try to read poetry out loud while climbing the mountain.
And here, here's a picture of our friend here, all dressed up to take part in the Alton Weagle Day. I became Walt Whitman, complete with beard and floppy hat. You look the part. Oh, my God.
So I found a master seamstress, a costume designer out of Manchester, New Hampshire. She made my costume for me. I registered to enter into this thing. We read Leaves of Grass. I got 1.5 times through the book. I took part in the day there. You can see me hiking up there. And there's Mary who made my costume.
Yeah.
And so I'm a record holder. I now hold the record for reading poetry out loud while climbing up the mountain.
What is that thing that goes, I'm just chicken. I mean, I'll hike up a certain point and that's it. But what is that? Is it called it's called the Cog Railway? I've had people describe it as looking like this down the edge. I don't think I could handle that.
Yeah, both the Cog and the auto road are quite steep. The Cog and the Cog Railway, which was started running in 1869. It's been running since 1869. In some areas, there's a 20-30% grade, and the 37% grade is the highest grade on the Cog. If you're sitting on the car, the conductors are actually standing forward in order to remain upright. It's the incline
but they're
is
on
that
the
steep.
edge of the mountain.
But they're on the edge of the mountain. Yeah.
Has there ever been a
Of the Cog and the auto road, yes, there's been it's been 150 years, so over 150 years there's been, a fair number of accidents, a couple of fatalities over the years, based on the traffic that both the Cog and the auto road take per year. By some estimates, it's 150,000 people drive the Cog per season. Their safety rates are very, very good.
That's good. Yeah.
But yeah, there has been. the auto road itself is averages a 12% grade. There's no, you can see from the pictures, there's no hand railings or anything like that on it. And if you are driving up and there's someone driving down in the other direction, you can roll each other's windows down. You can high five each other as you pass. That's how close the road is
To the edge.
to the edge. Yeah.
Why don't they put like a metal thing? I'm just curious.
Erosion, weather issues. It just wouldn't last.
It wouldn't last. Now, there's an adorable picture here. He's with a fellow volunteer, and you were up at the observation deck at 85-mile-an-hour winds.
Yeah.
This is amazing. You can't see the picture. It's too small, but you've got to get. How do they get your book, Dan?
From my website, danczesny.com. Basically, if you go to Google and you enter SZCZ, I'll show up because I'm the only one in New England. But also Amazon, any of your local bookstores, Barnes & Noble, you can find it in any of those places.
Are you giving any presentations?
Yes, in fact, you are the first stop of my winter tour.
Now, where are you going to?
Tomorrow, I'm going to be in Topsham, Maine, at the Topsham, Maine Library. Friday, I'm going to be giving a presentation at L.L. Bean in Freeport, Maine. And then I head to Philadelphia for 2 days. I'm going to be giving talks and doing stuff with the Cog Railway at the Philadelphia Adventure and Travel Show at the Convention Center. Yeah. Then I go to Scranton, Pennsylvania for a couple of days. Wow. Back up to Dover. Next Friday, I'm in Dover, New Hampshire. And then I'm doing Saturday. I have a couple stops Saturday in Rhode Island.
How about at the base of Mount Washington?
But you can see all of that on my website.
Okay. Now, what's your website? Let them know again.
DanSesny.com.
Okay.
First name, last name.com.
Spell your last name for them, Dan.
SZCZESNY. But
Yeah.
seriously, if you punch in a bunch of Z's and C's, my name will come up.
I would think giving a presentation at the bottom of Mount Washington where everybody starts, wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah, I gave a talk at the Pinkham Notch Visitor Center, which is just up the road from the Otter Road, and that was really neat. And I think this fall I've been talking with the president of the observatory, of doing an actual talk up at the observatory, which will be fun.
We hear about, once in a while you'll hear the weathermen talk about what it is up at the top of Mount Washington.
Yeah.
And this guy, Caleb Mueti?
Caleb Mute.
He is the observatory's weather room dude, right?
Yep.
Eye on the radar. Do they report back to everybody in New England all of our weather?
Yeah, most of the local radio stations get their sort of regional weather reports from Mount Washington. Either there or Gray, Maine. There's a national weather station in Gray, Maine, and that does some reporting. But between Mount Washington and, in your case, I guess you're closer to
Worcester.
Blue Hill.
Worcester.
The Blue Hill Observatory in
Yeah.
Milton, Mass.
Yeah.
They do some coastal weather observing over there.
Yeah.
So between those three, most of your weather reports come from the top of Mount Washington or Milton or perhaps Gray, Maine.
Now,
So they do it for everybody.
A little cuddly comic relief here. Marty the cat. Tell us about Marty the cat.
It's funny that you should mention that you honed in on Marty, because in all of the work that I've done with the observatory and the time that I spent up, the observatory has been up there since 1932, and in all the presentations that I've done and in all the questions that people have asked, the question that I get asked the most is, did I meet Marty?
Yeah.
And Marty is the observatory mascot.
How old is this kitty?
He's lived up there. He was a kitten in 2008, so he's over 10 now. He's about 11 or 12.
Yeah.
He's been up there since 2008. Since 1932, the observatory has had cat mascots.
He's all black, too.
He's all black.
He's all black.
And he's quite a celebrity. He writes his own monthly column for the observatory newsletter. But he's really he's sort of this go-between, right? Because the observatory does a lot of work with schools, with a lot of science work with schools, and they do FaceTimes and they do Skypes with schools. Yeah. And Marty is a great way to get kids interested in the science that's going on up there, because they bring him out and they all want to see Marty, and they all talk to Marty.
At the observatory.
And he lives up there. Yeah. So he always comes out, and he's quite a celebrity. Everybody loves him. He's very friendly, as you might imagine, and he is the only, permanent living creature at the top, because the observers come and go, and Marty stays. He lives up there.
Was he a stray?
No, he was.
How did he get up there?
Yeah, he won in 2007. His predecessor, Nin, retired, and they had to find a new mascot. So the North Conway Animal Society offered the observatory 3 kittens, and Mount Washington Observatory members got to vote on who would be the next mascot. And Marty won that election.
How old was he when he came?
He was a kitten, so he was only a few months old.
You guys could hold him right in the front.
Yeah, he was a little guy. So that's how he won. He won that election.
Now.
And that election took place, by the way, as an aside, that election took place on the same day as the February 2008 New Hampshire presidential primary election. It took place on the same day.
Now, you have how many little ones at home?
Well, I have 2 foster kids.
Yeah.
We don't foster them anymore, but 2 teenagers and 1 4-year-old.
Your 4-year-old. Now, that's the picture.
And that's the 4-year-old.
That's the picture of Dan with his 4-year-old.
Yeah, there she is right there.
What did she think of the top up there?
She loves it.
Was she scared to go?
No, God, she's so fearless. When your dad is a travel writer, you go a lot of places. Yeah, there she is.
Oh, she's in a mountain stream, and then you saw your painting.
Yeah, and so I spent a couple of weekends learning landscape painting as well, because I was doing research on some of the early, what is it called, the White Mountain School of Art landscape artists in the 1820s and 1830s. They were really the driving force of tourism for the mountains in those early days, and I wanted to sort of step outside of my medium and try my hand at landscape art.
Well, you were
the bottom line is that I should keep my day job.
Yeah. No, I'm looking. So your painting was next to the Masters, set up in a parking area across the road from Mount Washington. Were you doing with oils or acrylic?
We were doing oils.
That's expensive stuff.
Yeah, and here's Byron. Here's my mentor.
That's him.
Here he is right here. Yeah.
Is he a real New Hampshireite?
Yeah, he lives up in Hopkinton, New Hampshire. He's a fantastic painter. He does these exhibits. He's a, what's it called, plein air painter?
Plein air.
He works,
French, yeah.
he works outside. And they had a whole weekend, a retreat, and they let me come to the retreat, and I learned so much about the art of landscape painting.
There is a beautiful picture of a very, very elderly gentleman that you helped. It's a picture of they helped. What happened? They helped him finish it up to the top?
So, George Entweiler is from State College, Pennsylvania. That's where he's a retired electrical engineering professor. There he is.
Yeah.
And I ran the road race. Once a year, the Mount Washington, the auto road holds a foot race. Yeah. And I'm not by any means an ultra athlete, but I could get up there in 3 hours. But I was looking for a different way to approach that story. Yeah. And George has been running this race since the 80s. In 2017, I was honored to be on his team. They allowed me to be on his team. I was the water. I carried their water.
Sure.
And what's remarkable, there's a lot of things remarkable about George, but what's the most remarkable is that in 2017, when George ran this race, he was 97 years old.
Oh,
and he ran it in 4 hours and 5 minutes. He did it in 4 hours.
Is he with us still?
Oh, yes. And in fact, he's coming back in a couple months at 99 to run the race again in June. He's a remarkable, incredible guy.
And the picture shows him with his grandson, Bob.
Because his grandson is the manager of his team. Yeah, and his great grandson was up there. His kids were up there. They all wait at the top for him. Every year they come. The family comes up, and he's training right now. In fact, Bob just sent me some pictures of George in the gym just last week, starting his training for his Mount Washington road race.
So he is going to be 97.
He's going to be 99.
99.
Yeah.
Just a kid.
Yeah, right. He's just a baby, right?
There is a place, there used to be a wonderful show over at the Grafton television station called Backpackers Journal, giving you a little plug out there, but I don't know if they're still on. I loved it. And the two guys who hosted the show, actually, there were two guys, one hosted it, the other one went with him. Funny as hell, they were opposites. But they would go up in the Washington area, and there was this little lean-to wooden shack with a little journal in it. Everybody who came in, have you seen that?
Probably one of the huts, maybe one of the AMC huts.
You could go in there, you could sign it, say hello on your way up and down.
Yeah, the Appalachian Mountain Club has a series of high huts. There's 8 of them in the White Mountains, each a day hike away from each other, and so you can do the whole ridgeline. And in each hut they have a whole journals dating back to the beginnings of the hut. In some cases, 40 or 50 years old. And you go in and you sign up, and you can get a bunk. And if it's summertime, they give you a blanket, and you can get a breakfast. And you sign in, and it's really fascinating. I got to read a lot of the. Look through a lot of the AMC. When I was doing the book, the AMC gave me access to all their archives, and I got to read a lot of the old hut books of these hikers who were passing through over the years. It's a pretty remarkable history.
There's a peak hiking day. What's that?
A pink hiking?
Peak.
Peak hiking. Yes, Seek the Peak you're talking about. Seek the Peak is the single day of the year when there is the most traffic up at the top of the mountain.
Yeah.
And foot traffic and shuttle traffic. The Mount Washington Observatory holds an annual Seek the Peak Day. It's a fundraiser for the observatory, and hikers can sign up and they register, and they can hike solo or they hike in teams, and everybody raises money for the observatory. If it's good weather, like it was in 2017 when I was up there, there's 5, 7, 10,000 people over the course of the day pass through the summit. Plus the auto road is open, plus the cog is open, all the shuttles are coming up.
Do they have food along the way or anything?
No, well, up at the summit there's a concession.
So you got to bring your own snacks.
But you'd bring your own snacks. Yeah, if you're going to be hiking Mount Washington, you're going to be hiking for most of the day, so you need to bring some water and snacks.
God.
Yeah.
I've never done it. I know at Plymouth State University
have you ever been to the top?
No,
You've
but
never been to the top of Mount Washington. Well, now hopefully you'll now be inspired.
Well, the kids used to do what's called tubing down the Pemigewasset River.
Yeah, of course.
Those big, huge tubes.
Yeah, the big tubes. They still do that. Yeah.
Now this is a picture. This is what fascinated me. 97, and then he's going to be 99. George Eitweiler being helped approach the top.
Yeah. He did it in 4 hours and 5 minutes in 2017. He came back in 2018, last year, and he did it in 4 hours and 4 minutes. He shaved a minute off of his time.
How is he doing this?
He's been doing it. He's been running since he was 48 years old. He is by far, one of the foremost ultra athletes in the United States, and he's a vegan. He's not even a vegetarian. He's a vegan. He lives this ultra fit, clean lifestyle. He runs 3 days a week. He goes to the gym twice a week. He's a really inspiring.
He's a bundle of energy.
Incredible guy. Yeah, he's nonstop.
I did not know that there was a Mount Washington in Massachusetts.
Yes, this was an interesting part of the book. So Washington, the name Washington, is by far the most popular place name in the United States. There's nothing else that even comes close as far as towns, villages, parks, street names, all that type of stuff. There's literally millions of places in the United States called Washington. But there are only 2 towns in the entire United States named Mount Washington. One of them is in Kentucky, and one of them is not far from here in Mount Washington, Massachusetts. It's right in the southwestern corner of the state.
Why have I never heard of this?
Right in the Berkshires.
And yet I
right
grew
at
up
the
in
corner of New York and Connecticut.
That's why I didn't hear about it.
Yeah.
Okay. It's
And
right up there, which...
Yeah, and it's the home of the highest waterfall in Massachusetts, the
Bash Bish
Falls. Yeah.
Where did that name come from?
It's a Native American name that basically means... it's named after... this is kind of a down story, but it's named after an Indian squaw who took her life by jumping off of the falls. Bash Bish, her name was.
It's for real.
And that's for real.
We are talking with Dan Szczesny, and he is the author of The White Mountain, our White Mountains up in New Hampshire, Rediscovering Mount Washington's Hidden Culture. Where would they get your book, Dan?
Anywhere they want. Amazon, any local bookstores, Barnes & Noble, or you could just go to my website, which is danczesny.com, and you can buy it from there.
Now, with all of your knowledge and experience with the White Mountains, have you got another book coming?
I do.
I had a funny feeling, yeah. Okay,
what makes you think
Cough
that?
it up. What is it?
I have 2 actually this year. This fall, hopefully it'll be before Thanksgiving. So I'm in between Halloween and Thanksgiving is
Coming
the
up.
expected release date this year. It's untitled yet, but it's a collection of essays on fatherhood.
Oh my
That's coming
gosh,
out.
that's a switch, huh?
Well, I've written a lot of different... I like writing
yeah.
a lot of different things. And then my not next year, but the year after, I'm actually writing a book on... I'm writing a biography on a New Hampshire doctor. His name is Herman Sander. And in 1950, he's from Candia, New Hampshire. And in 1950, he became the first American doctor to be put on trial for mercy killing.
Oh,
In
1950?
1950, and he predates Kevorkian and the whole Death with Dignity movement by 3 decades.
A lot
and
of
no
us
one
weren't
knows
even
about
here
it.
then. Yeah, my gosh.
So he has 3 daughters, 2 who live in California, 1 who lives right here in Massachusetts, and they're on board. So it's an authorized biography. And
Was it true,
I'm going to
Dan?
tell his story.
Did he really?
Yeah, it's going to be a true story. It's going to be a true biography.
And you're not going to tell the outcome of it.
No, I can. I mean, it's in record. If you Google his name, a couple of articles will come up. He actually was acquitted.
What, meaning
He got off. Yeah.
But he had done it though.
Yeah. He, in fact, not only did he do it, it was a terminally ill cancer patient. Her name was Abby Barallo, and she was in her 30s, and she had been his patient for a decade, and she was, down to 82 pounds and in terrible, there was no hospice, there was no morphine, that type of thing back then. So she was in terrible agony. And he injected water bubbles into her IV.
Oh.
And so she passed. And he actually wrote it down. The reason that he got in trouble for it is because he didn't try to hide it. He actually, on his daily record at the hospital where he was working, Elliott Hospital at the time in Manchester, he actually wrote it down that that's what he did. And he was reported and he was arrested. And so 3 months worth of trials. It was an enormous trial. It was a trial of the century. There's reporters. I've seen newspaper articles on this trial in Mexico, in London, in Hong Kong. This was a worldwide followed trial. And he eventually was acquitted. After 3 months, there's people like novelists like John O'Hare were involved.
Yeah.
What's his name? Not Pat Robertson. The other guy, Billy Graham, got involved.
Yeah.
That's how big this was. He was acquitted because the jury afterwards was interviewed. They were all middle-aged white men who were part of the jury in 1950, and they acquitted him. They said not because they felt he didn't do it. He admitted to doing it. They acquitted him because they felt that the law was wrong.
Oh.
It's a very interesting case. It's also a very interesting legal case.
Is this your first book?
Oh no, that's my 6th book.
Well, what were your other ones?
I wrote a collection. I have a collection of short stories. I have a collection of poetry. I have my first book was Buffalo and Tough Adventures of Buffalo and Tough Cookie, with me and my foster daughter when she was 9 years old.
What's it called? What called
The
again?
Adventures of Buffalo and Tough Cookie. My trail name is Buffalo.
Oh, okay.
And her trail name is Tough
Tough
Cookie.
Cookie, okay.
And when she was 9, her and I spent a year in the White Mountains. We hiked one mountain a week for 52 weeks. And we wrote about our adventure.
How old was she?
She was 9.
Oh, my.
Yeah, she's 17 now. Can you believe it? Time flies.
So
right?
you have gone recently from the White Mountain to a fatherhood book coming up,
Yep.
and then about a mercy killing.
Yep.
Where are you finding the time with your regular job?
Oh, this is my regular job. This is what I do
This
for a
is it
living.
now?
Yeah.
You're not working as a journalist anymore?
Well, I work as a journalist. I do freelance writing.
Okay.
I write books.
Yep.
I do speaking events and book signing events. I work, I put in a few hours. I do some social media for a local library up in
Yeah.
Manchester where I work. And I just cobble it all together.
This is
It's
awesome.
it's
This
great
is-
being a full-time writer.
We were talking with Dan Szczesny, and he is the author of The White Mountain. We're just rediscovering Mount Washington's hidden culture. So they can get it anywhere they
Anywhere they want.
Anywhere, Amazon,
where
anywhere.
fine books are sold, as they say.
And will there be a copy downstairs?
In the library.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop there on my way out, so
Good.
I hope so.
They could. They have they have their author's wall.
That's my plan, yeah.
Yeah, the author's wall. We have it down there. If you're living in the Upton area or whatever, come on over and you can borrow it. It's another great way for people to get to
And
realize.
with luck, maybe I can arrange a program here at the library as well. That would be great.
Hey, go. Yep. Come in and give us a
I
whole
would very
presentation
much
and
like
book
to do that.
signing. Dan, thanks so much for your.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been
This
really
is-
awesome.
I want it now. The fatherhood book will be coming out near Halloween.
In between Halloween and Thanksgiving.
Can you
That's
let me
the
know?
plan. Yes, I will definitely let you
Because-
know. And you can just keep on. I have on my website. You can join. I have a subscription list. You
All
can
right.
join my subscriber list and
I
get
have a very young
notifications.
son. He's a millennial kid, but he has 2 little ones, and I'm thinking, you know what?
Perfect for him.
Might be good for him to read this,
Yeah.
from a pro, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, from a pro. I don't think we're ever pros at parenting.
It's like they say our kids are poor, but we're not given a roadmap.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, now what do I do?
Right.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you for having me.
We'll see you next time. I'll be my guest.
Bye-bye.